Hey, this is a segment of our Fast Break podcast. If you guys want to check out more from MVP, hit us up at mostvaluablepodcast.com. Hope you guys enjoy. Keep on trucking.
All right, now let's move on to the topic that I think we all wanted to talk about, and that's what makes a superstar in the NBA. And if you do want to check out the reason why we're talking about this, check out the video we put up 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Well, there's the Giannis, there's the DeMar DeRozan. There's been a lot of discussions in the past year that we've come up with.
And the main one I want to bring up is the Giannis Antetokounmpo one, where we said, is Giannis' superstardom being limited by the market he plays in Milwaukee? And Milwaukee fans got pissed at us, like really pissed at us. If you want to see a fun comic section, go to that one because, man, we got obliterated. And
you mean Giannis, right?
That hard G.
I messed up. I forgot it was the Y sound. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Nah, I'm just saying it to troll Buck fans.
I know you are. But really, and they were like, how is he not a superstar? And we never said he wasn't a superstar. At least we never said he wasn't a great player. And I think that's the one thing that people get mixed up on is a great player versus a superstar.
Doesn't mean a superstar.
Yeah, and you can be a great player and still be a superstar. And I think what really kind of ruined this was NBA 2K, because when you go to like a player, it's like their label is superstar, and he's the superstar of your team. But that doesn't mean he's a superstar.
Yeah, every team doesn't have a superstar.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I kind of want to whittle down is what makes a superstar in your mind in the NBA?
In my mind in the NBA, superstars need to transcend the sport. It's guys that completely are above the game. I don't want to say bigger than the game, but they're recognized by fans by people who aren't really fans of the NBA. Like, if you go up to someone randomly on the street and be like, hey, LeBron James, they're like, yeah, we know LeBron. Like, then you start talking different players.
Steph Curry.
There's a very short list of people who are recognizable outright without any NBA knowledge. That is really what a superstar is. When you have your own brand, when you have your own marketing, your own media, and when you are on ESPN 24/7 because they actually care about you. Because guess what? You're a valuable asset as a personality.
And just mentioning your name gets someone to go, huh?
And like obviously the ones that stick out are Steph Curry, LeBron James. But I think another guys that might be put into that segment, and even if they're not even top players in the NBA or like that fringe top 10, John Wall's one of them, because John Wall, I mean, everyone knew the dance back when he was coming out of college. So I mean,
coming down that Kentucky thing on the opening night.
If you ask people like, all right, name 3 NBA players, they'll say LeBron James, they'll say Steph Curry, and you might hear a Russ, you might hear a KD, you might even hear a James Harden because of the beard, you might hear a John Wall, but you're not going to hear players that you guys know and that you guys love. You're not going to hear a DeMar DeRozan too often because he doesn't transcend the sport. He's a great player. He's a fantastic player.
And the other thing is, longevity too. It's like you have to look at the guys like Carmelo. Carmelo's a superstar because he's been doing it for a decade. He's in he is in the biggest market in America, and he has his own brand outside of basketball. He's dating someone who is more famous than he is. Like, there's so many things like that make up a superstar. Yes, you can be an amazing player, but if you're not doing it for X amount of time and you're not there's so much more than just play.
I think D Wade fits in that perfectly too, because D Wade, he used to be a superstar, but if you look at his play on the court, he's not a superstar anymore. I think Dirk's fallen off superstardom level, but he might be a superstar just because he transcends a whole market.
But Shaq was a superstar.
But I'm saying Dirk transcends a whole market. He brings in the German market.
Kind of like Tim Duncan.
Or like Yao Ming. I was going to more say the international player because Yao Ming was a great player, but he was always injured. He was always hurt. But
guess what? All of China watched.
He opened the market for China, and Dirk opened the market for Germany. So that's the one thing is Giannis, he has superstardom power, but if he's staying in Milwaukee and they don't make the playoffs consistently, then they won't get their eyes on that. And then people are talking, well, how did Russ and KD become superstars? Well, KD was the number 1 overall pick in Seattle, which was a big market that just didn't really appreciate their team. And Russ was playing alongside the number 1 overall pick. He's always making highlights. And then they go to the NBA Finals. They go up against LeBron. They're consistently in the playoffs.
4 years, 4 or 5 years they've been in playoffs together.
Something like that.
And that's the thing. It's we want Giannis.
Eyes are currently on them.
We want DeMar to be there, but
KD was an MVP
and scoring champ.
Yeah.
And Oscar Robertson, comparisons for Russell Westbrook, like, you don't get compared to all-time greats just because you're doing it like on the split. It's look, there is some consistency to their play, and there's a reason. DeMar DeRozan, yes, he's having a phenomenal year for shooting guard, one of the best all time, early on, but this is a very, very, very small sample size. You can't compare that to the 2 decades of Michael Jordan at shooting guard. You can't compare that to Kobe Bryant. Yes, it's a small sample size. If he can do that for a long period of time, then yeah, he could do it. But that's the same with Giannis. It's like, look, your numbers are great. This is your breakout year. Clearly, you had a little bit last year. Previewed it. This year is awesome.
The latter half of that season, he pretty much showed what you could do.
Right, but that you've got almost a full season now of that. Yeah, that's not enough.
But the thing that I like that Dave said is transcend the game, and it's not just being a superstar. Isn't just you're a big name.
Yep.
Because I look at guys like I just went through the league, and I went, how many teams have superstars? And my first kind of run through, maybe 9 teams have superstars.
Superstars.
Then throw out those teams.
But, I would say the Knicks, because of Carmelo.
Yeah.
The Knicks are just, I would just say, the Knicks are just one of the biggest teams. So that really their best player is going to be. Yeah.
I would say the Bulls only because I would count D Wade as a superstar overall.
I think he's
for his
fading,
career.
but
he's fading. But going off of what you said, with the casual fan would know who D Wade is.
Yeah.
The Cavs obviously have a superstar.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Pacers, would Paul George be a superstar?
Nope.
Then not the Pacers.
If he went to the Olympics and blew up, I think people might know him because that's the dude that broke his leg. I saw that on Twitter.
The Southeast Division, I don't think there's any. Kemba and John Wall are good players,
great players,
but they're not superstars.
Yep,
they're not superstars. I mean, and then
Wall's a fringe one, I would say.
But I mean, I wouldn't
fringe
count
one.
him as a superstar.
No, I'm saying
that's what I'm saying.
The wrong side of the fringe.
In the Northwest, I mean, Russ, I'm saying is a superstar.
Without a doubt.
Dame is kind of.
Dame's brand is building, but
that's the
until
one
he
thing.
does it for more than a couple of years, he's not.
And then the Southwest Division, obviously James Harden.
Yep.
I mean, Dirk is in the same situation as D Wade.
Yep.
And the biggest the 2 questions there are LaMarcus and Anthony Davis.
I would say more Kawhi.
I mean, Kawhi is the quietest guy in the world, so he'll never get the love. He's got all the talent.
Top 5 player in the NBA, but he's not a superstar.
Yeah.
In marketability wise, because if we're saying, superstars are top 10 players in the NBA, then Kawhi's in there. But
you're
if
not.
you look at Kawhi, you're never like, I know Kawhi. Look at that highlight dunk. No, Kawhi plays great basketball, but it's not like a highlight reel machine. But he might be a guy where it's like, I know Kawhi because I'm consistently watching the playoffs.
But what about LaMarcus or AD? Would you count any of those two?
No. I mean,
LaMarcus isn't.
LaMarcus has been around for so long, but I mean, if I said, "Hey, who is LaMarcus Aldridge?" to a casual basketball fan, I don't think they would know who that is.
Yeah.
Well, then the Pacific Division, the only 2 teams that have superstars, the Clippers, because I would put CP3 as a superstar. I feel like the casual fan would know
him
who
and Blake
CP3
doing all those
is.
commercials now.
I would say Blake's more of a superstar than CP3.
Either or. You could put either.
So,
Still,
together.
I think CP3, and then the Warriors are just the Warriors. The way, Steph Curry is obviously the main superstar, but you also have Kevin Durant. Even
Klay Thompson, Draymond Green.
That entire team is so marketable.
People know the Warriors.
So if we went off of just,
people know the fucking Warriors blew a 3-1 lead.
If we just went off of what we did just now, the Knicks, the Bulls, the Cavs, then we had the Warriors, the Clippers, the Rockets, and the Thunder. Okay, 7.
And that's a small.
7.
Small.
If we took away the Bulls, that's 6.
That's okay. So
that's
6 of 30. That's not. That's 5%.
Well, that's the thing. It's I don't. I feel like superstar is an overused term. I think so too. When you say superstar, you're talking about a generational talent, a guy who's going to go down in NBA history for what he's done. I'm talking people along the lines of MJ, Shaq, Wilt, fucking Kareem, all these guys who are legends. That's the only step you go after superstar is to legend. And that's really I don't see how every team thinks they have a superstar.
And that's the thing too, is looking at this, there are great players on great teams.
Absolutely.
And there's more than 35 great players in the NBA.
Yeah.
And there's guys that you could build a franchise around, but there's only a couple guys that transcend the game. Because if you look back in the 90s, if you're talking about people in the 90s, hey, who do you really remember? People are obviously going to say Jordan, but it's really if you look at who else was in that, I'm trying to find, but
John Stockton.
But I'm saying the guys that aren't
because you remember from the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the guys who didn't make the playoffs, who were on bad teams but were great players.
Charles Barkley. Charles had that one season with the Suns, but would he be a superstar?
Charles is still relevant.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Like maybe like Dominique. Dominique was a legitimate threat. Dominique was one of the best high flyers in the league. He was a great scorer. But
don't forget Clyde.
But I would say Clyde's probably more recognizable because he was on the Dream Team. Mm-hmm. Dominique really didn't make. If he was on the Dream Team, I might completely remember. I can't bring it up. Maybe he got snubbed after. Maybe he was behind the queue of Isaiah Thomas. But I think that a guy like Dominique, he's remembered by great basketball fans, but casual fans probably don't remember Dominique.
I agree with you.
And I think one thing too you can probably argue is the biggest star on Minnesota might be Zach LaVine because of what he did in the slam dunk contest. The biggest star for the Orlando Magic might be Aaron Gordon because of what he did in the dunk contest. Vince Carter didn't become a superstar until he had his dunk contest moment. When everything is going to be replayed on SportsCenter or highlight reels, that's what people are going to be like, oh, that guy's a guy to watch. That guy's great.
Dominique, though, he had the dunk contest moment, too. I mean,
that was the 80s. I'm saying people now won't remember him. I'm saying people now.
But the one thing...
People now are going to remember Jordan. People are now going to remember Shaq.
Who did Jordan go up against, though? And that's the thing. But because of Jordan is...
Whoever he went up against got elevated.
But it's kind of like that the game for the Titans and the Bills or whatever. The Bills quarterback threw a touchdown without a shoe, but people don't remember that because what happened the next play? The Music City Miracle. No one remembers what happened leading up to the Music City Miracle. No one remembered what happened that led up to the fucking fluty Hail Mary. People remember the play. Yep. So that's the thing is that, yes, Dominique was in a significant moment, but who do people remember? People remember Jordan. People remember the logo. People remember the outstretched arm and the outstretched tongue in Chicago Stadium slamming it home. People remember the
Space Jam. Great movie, by the way.
But that's another thing. Movies, too. I mean, Ray Allen might have been a superstar because of Jesus Shuttleworth. That was a tongue twister right there. But, I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's some guys that do transcend the game.
Yeah.
And I think some guy that kind of falls into that. There's a guy that we didn't mention on the Clippers, Paul Pierce. He used to be a superstar because he was on that Celtics team, and he was kind of a fringe one too.
Didn't help that he had Kevin Garnett too.
That's the thing is like he became a superstar when he started winning, but he was always a great player. Yeah, and that's one thing is you need to win to be a superstar because that's when people are going to recognize you. People remember Tom Brady and Peyton Manning because they won. People remember Michael Jordan because he won 6 fucking titles. People remember Shaq, Kobe because they won. If Kobe was going off for 81, people would be like, oh, I remember that one kid who put up 81. But people remember Kobe because he won 6 titles.
Yeah, there's so many guys who put up, over 20 points a night.
Or 5 titles. 5 titles.
Yeah. It's you can put up 20 points a night. You can put 5 boards and like 4 assists, and that's great. And you're a really good basketball player. That doesn't make you a superstar. Stats don't make you a superstar. I'm sorry.
And the thing that I feel like has changed this, and this is to go back to a point that Dave made, was the whole popularity thing and the casual fan knowing about like, oh, do you know who this person is? And I'm telling you, what's kind of changed that a little bit? Social media. Back in the day, it's like someone drops a 40 points in Utah. I had to wait till SportsCenter to get it because we didn't have that instant Twitter of, hey, did you see this happening? Now when stuff happens, boom, it's right there on Twitter.
Here's this highlight of Kemba dancing out on a missed shot.
Yeah, and it's instantly sent out to everybody that has Twitter, which is a lot of people. I don't know if you guys have noticed.
Yeah, and I think Instagram is probably the biggest thing right now, at least social media-wise, or Facebook too, but I'll use Instagram.
All of them in general. They all do the same thing.
But the fact that this exists versus newspapers in the old days.
And just to bolster it, Steph Curry, guy who we said was a superstar, 14.2 million followers. And then I'll look up Giannis Antetokounmpo because obviously he's a guy that was in contention.
541,000.
500,000 followers. So
all from Milwaukee.
Yeah, not all from Milwaukee, but it's from hardcore fans, guys that are going to be going
Green
to
Bay, I'm sorry,
guys that are going to be coming to our channel and be watching this
if you're
stuff
on our
about
channel,
Giannis.
You're probably not a casual fan.
You're not, and that's one thing is if you're seeking out content on YouTube, you're not a casual fan. You are a hardcore fan, unless you're going to NBA and looking for highlights. Yeah. If you're looking for actual topics, you're not a casual fan. You're a hardcore fan. But people that are outside, like the girl in your class who's sitting behind you that you want to go on a date with, but like she might know Steph Curry, she might know LeBron James, but she's not gonna know who the fuck Giannis Antetokounmpo is. If you wear your Giannis Antetokounmpo jersey out, she's gonna be like, oh, who's that? And you're gonna be like, oh, he's the Greek freak. And then she's gonna be like, what's that? And you're gonna be like, oh, sit down, let me tell you about Milwaukee. It's a great market for basketball. And then she's gonna be like, yeah, I don't want you to text me anymore.
I mean, this whole segment...
Great beer, by the way, I think.
We don't want to talk shit to Milwaukee.
I do.
But Sean's definitely a little salty.
I'm just saying. But it's one thing. I'm not trying to take it too personally. Yeah. But it's just one thing that we did want to clear up, because I'm also going to be talking about markets. I think I'm going to be writing an article pretty soon. I don't know when it's going to be up. I don't want to make the promise, but
you will check that out on our site.
Yes, well, check that out on mostvaluablepodcast.com, because markets still matter, and people said they don't matter because Giannis, he could have 14.2 million followers. Like we said, he's big Russ or little LeBron, but the thing is, eyes aren't on him in Milwaukee. If he's in New York and he's putting up the numbers he currently is, that kid would not be stopped talking. It's like, what did LeBron do? What did Giannis Antetokounmpo do? Hey, LeBron and Giannis are going up against each other. That's going to be the 7 o'clock game on ESPN on Fridays. Like, that's going to be the marquee matchup.
But he's got Milwaukee tattooed right here, though.
Yeah. Don't forget, he's not leaving Milwaukee. We never said he was either.
But the one thing with that comment, when I just think about it now, maybe a little bit, you could say markets don't matter because of the social media, because of where media is right now. I'll take it for us, it may be a little different because we love sports so much. And like for me and Dave, like I'm going to look at the Bulls. For the Bulls, I'm going to check out what the beat writers are saying because that's my team. But, like, for any other team, I'm not going to go to the beat writer. I'm just going to go to, like, ESPN and see what's going on.
No, and I 100%.
And everything's more national now than just individual markets.
And I know 100% what you're saying is that social media can bust it open, but no one has done it. Mm-hmm. And you look at it, and the only way I can kind of find a guy who really has transcended it was, and it's not even an actual sport, it's more of WWE. A guy that people wanted to push was Zack Ryder because he was involved with the fans. He was the internet champion. He was consistently out there, and people were like, "Oh yeah, I know Zack Ryder. I want him. I want him." I always see him on YouTube, and that's one thing is that we haven't seen a guy take social media and make himself a superstar. Because James Harden, how do people know James Harden? Because he was traded from OKC and he's done nothing but fantastic things.
And he's grown a beard.
He's grown a huge beard, and he also almost beat Steph for the MVP. And people were like, "Oh, he's now on my radar." Mm-hmm. And you look at Steph. How did he make it? Because of his performance in the tournament, and people then saw his explosion in the NBA. And he's the kid who can shoot from 55 feet away from three, blindfolded backwards, and knock it down. LeBron James became a superstar when he stepped on.
You mean when he was about 16?
He was a superstar before he came into the league. When he was on the Sports Illustrated cover, he was a superstar.
They crowned his
Cleveland's
ass.
Not a big market. LeBron made it a market. That's the thing, is the Cleveland Browns aren't a huge market team.
Guess what? LeBron leaves Cleveland, not a market.
And that's
we watched it happen.
Exactly, we watched it happen. And that's the thing. We're not bashing Cleveland fans. We're not saying that they're not diehard fans, but Cleveland isn't a big market. I mean, and just to go a little political here, not too much, but the reason why Cleveland has gone down market-wise is because there's jobs leaving, there's people leaving, the market size goes down. There's not a lot of industry left in Cleveland, and that's the one thing. If there was, then Cleveland would be a bigger market because that's the
winning helps too.
Yeah, well, winning helps too, but that's the place between sports, Philadelphia and Chicago. That's pretty much the thing in between. I mean, Cincinnati's there too, but at least basketball-wise, in between Philly and Chicago is Cleveland, and that's the big thing, and that's the market you can hit is everyone around there. Yeah. And if LeBron's not there, then you don't hit it, but you are hitting it because LeBron's there. Superstars make a market, and you can make a market, a small market, a huge market with a superstar, but you need that superstar to help, and it's not just a one-way thing because if Giannis is going off and Bucks fans aren't supporting, not saying you aren't, but if they are not, because they're sensitive, if you are not, then Giannis isn't getting any coverage. Giannis isn't getting any coverage, whether it's locally or nationally. People won't give a shit about the Bucks, and then the Bucks will move, and the Bucks will become the Vancouver Bucks.
Vancouver's not a big enough market.
I'm just saying. Hypothetically.
The only reason Seattle's a big enough market is because OKC got good good.
Well, Seattle has business there.
Yeah, but also it was everyone's like, oh my God, let's start this. Everyone going back to Seattle, and now it's just becoming crazy.
And OKC too. I mean, OKC also. I mean, they had fans that wanted a team there.
Yeah, they were really passionate about it.
That fucking stadium sold out. You don't see Bucks Stadium sold out like before this year. You didn't see Bucks Stadium sold out. It was a team that struggled to get fans in.
People lighting it up for Michael Redd.
Not a lot of people liked the BMO Harris Center with Michael Redd.
That was a great kind of business move by OKC in general. Is like you look at that stadium, you look at those fans, you're like, it's kind of like a college town. You know what? Let's cater to the college atmosphere.
And they built it up with young guys.
Yeah.
That was the thing. They're two young stars on that team.
So they knew what they were doing. And that's why OKC is where they're at right now, marketability.
This was
therapeutic.
Feeling good. Very therapeutic. Any final thoughts here?
I like how Sean has been like for weeks. Just not gonna let them get to me, guys. Not gonna let them get to me. And then we talk about this.
I never said that. I wanted you guys to be like, hey guys, see my responses on the videos. But was I smart? Did it sound right? Any final thoughts on the superstar stuff?
No, I think we handled it pretty well.
Not every team has a superstar. Boom.
Yeah.
Every team might have a great player,
but not a superstar.
And there's obviously a clear best player on every single team, but not every player is a superstar.
Like DeMar DeRozan, like Kemba Walker,
and DeMar might be a superstar in
like
Toronto.
Jimmy Butler. Even though it hurts me to say, like
no,
Jimmy Butler.
He's totally not.
I know, but I would really love to say that he is.
But Jimmy Butler might have done it because of fucking Krispy Kreme and his stupid videos with his dumb friend who looks like a frog.
But he's not there yet.
Froggy Fresh.
It's Froggy Fresh.
Sorry.
He changed his name to Froggy Fresh.
Yeah.
He's thinking of Mad Mike.
Jimmy Butler is your father. People know that.
Is your father.
My family in Iowa watched that before I did. and that's the one thing, is DeMar might be a superstar in Toronto. But in the U.S., I mean, you're not only crossing a country, but I mean, that's just a market that isn't big. It's a huge market in Canada, the biggest city in Canada, but that's not something that trans over to U.S. media.
Hey, Sean, why is Dave crying? Because he just got dunked on.
That's going to wrap up this episode of the Fast Break Podcast. Don't forget to tell us what you think of all of our topics, especially the superstar one, because this is something that we really are interested in. This is something that we want to hear your opinions on.
Absolutely.
Because with the Bucks thing, yeah, it was a little annoying having Bucks fans call us stupid, but we can still defend ourselves. If we wouldn't be doing this if we couldn't defend ourselves. And, most of you guys are great, and we love talking to you. So don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments down below. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, thank you for downloading. Thank you for checking us out. We really, really appreciate it there. If you checked us out on YouTube, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. But for Dave Oster, Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next week.
And I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast from the Fast Break. If you want to check out more, click on the video right over there. Giddy up.